this is my comfort green sweater.
I do see you in that sweater often. I have one too, but it's gray. At least yours is colorful. Like your comfy sweater is colorful.
It's dark green. It's like a forest green, and it's one of my favorite staple items to grab and go anytime I have anywhere to be. It's very much my comfort blanket to go.
But I also feel like it matches your personality. Like it's very, I don't know, it's like really cozy and warm and I mean from a color standpoint, it's very warm. Like whereas my cozy sweater, my grab and go sweater is like a fucking rain cloud over everything and it's got holes in the sleeve. And I don't really know what that says about our personalities, but yeah.
Maybe something for a future episode.
Maybe so.
How the cardigans we choose shape our personalities.
Right. Instead, in this episode, we're discussing fuzzy socks.
I have so many big fucking feelings about fuzzy socks. It's not even funny. I didn't even realize until we picked this as a topic that it mattered so much to me.
Oh, this is intriguing. Okay.
Yeah.
Please do tell.
We're going to go all over the place because that's how my brain works.
And because that's what we do anyway.
I'll start by saying this, and it's kind of fun. I used to ask guys that I was talking to on dating apps if they slept in socks to help me to figure out if they were toxic. I don't know. I guess I felt like psychopaths sleep in socks. But I'm now backpedaling on this because there's a lot of studies done that sleeping in socks actually does improve your sleep at night.
I know. I went down this path too, and literally it says fuzzy socks can promote better sleep by keeping your feet at an optimal temperature. There's nothing optimal for me, Ashley, about middle of the night foot sweat. No. That's not optimal. There's nothing optimal about that.
No, but we're a different breed of human. So some humans need socks. My son, he wears socks all day long, nonstop. He refuses to take them off no matter what. And he sleeps in them because of that. And he's not a psychopath, so.
Well, okay. And can I can I be totally straight with you for a second? I would have pegged you, and I know you so well, right? But I would have pegged you as a nighttime sock wearer. And I'm not saying this like you're a serial killer. I'm saying this like nighttime sock with not synonymous with serial killer, okay? But because it always confuses me when it's 85 degrees out and you show up in a sweater and I'm dying. I'm legitimately dying.
I'm just cold all the time. In fact, a man came to my house. He was a grandfather of one of Charlotte's friends, and they just stopped over to say hi because they were passing by. And he got out of his truck and shook my hand, and I was meeting him for the first time, and he said, "Your hands are cold. You must be in love." And I was like, I'm cold all the time, but I am also in love.
Wait, what does that mean? Your hands are cold. You must be in love.
I don't know. I've never heard it before, but yeah. And is it a cliche? I don't know, but maybe we should find out.
I want to know what this means. Is that a Southernism? Because I've got a whole spiel about Southernisms later. TBD on that.
I will say that also in this research, I found that it's a very polarizing topic. Sleeping in socks, having sex in socks, it's very polarizing. And most people, myself included, say it is a major turnoff to wear socks in the act of doing the nasty. Please don't do that.
But sometimes you're fucking freezing, and that's the only warmth you're getting other than body warmth. And you kind of just you're so excited and ready that you don't fuck taking off the socks. That takes more time.
No, take them off. I feel awkward if you're wearing socks, but 30% increase in orgasm success if you're wearing socks.
Stop it right now. Where is that statistic from? I need facts, scientific facts on this.
It is from a study by the University of Groningen in the Netherlands in 2005. This is a widely cited study where researchers led by neuroscientist Gert Holstiga.
Of course, that's the name, Gert.
Holstiga found that when couples were given socks to wear during sex, their ability to achieve orgasm increased by 30%.
Socks from here on out.
I still won't do it.
New sock lover. Right.
I'm not having any issues in that department. Maybe if I were having I'll try socks.
No, actually, so I'm being silly about it, but like my real deal is that I have fuzzy socks on right now because I knew we were doing this episode and I was like, okay, you can do this. You can wear fuzzy socks, but I have this horrible urge to turn on my desk fan because I get overheated. You know this about me. Like basically everybody knows this about me. I get so overheated that I carry little fans with me that I can put around my neck, which I will often do out in public and embarrass the shit out of everyone I'm with. Don't care. Don't care at all.
I've never once been embarrassed by that.
Okay, good. But I literally have gone to like work retreats and I'll just randomly whip out this fan and suddenly everybody hears they're like, what is happening? What is happening? Like, it's not a vibrator, people. My fucking fan around my neck. I'm hot. Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to show you these fuzzy socks and then I'm taking them off immediately because I don't know that I can make it through the rest of this podcast episode. Okay, here are my fuzzy socks. They literally look like a giant fuzzy caterpillar on my foot. Now they're off because and I just did something I hate doing too. I like made a mess on my couch. I always like tidy up my couch and then inevitably someone, whether they have feet or paws, sits on my couch right before we do a podcast and then like everything's a disaster and the pillows looks like I haven't cleaned my house in a month. And meanwhile, I literally tidied it up 5 minutes before the podcast. Nevertheless, I just threw socks on my couch for those of you who are not watching the video. And that's really kind of against my nature. But
I like that you did it, though. It felt like freedom to me to see you do that.
It's like when people throw salt over their shoulder, you know, or like luck or whatever.
I've done that many times. I feel better doing it. I'm just like, this feels bad.
What is it supposed to mean?
I think it's like warding off evil spirits or something. I don't know. I'm not like, I'm wooey, but like I'm soft wooey. I'm not into it super hard. So I don't know all the things. I just know that people that are wooey that I love do it sometimes. And so
You said I'm soft wooey. That might be one of my favorite things you've ever called yourself.
It's the truth though. Like I'm spiritual, but I'm not, I don't like embrace it to my fullest extent. I don't know.
I would not classify myself as wooey, nor would I classify myself as a fuzzy sock wearer.
I am a little bit of both. Well, I'm a lot of fuzzy sock wearer because I wear them all day, every day, and I only take them off when it's time to run, anxiety walk, shower, or sleep. I don't sleep in them. But I'm wearing some right now that I do want to show you.
Okay, yeah, I want to see. Let me see.
I love these ones. They're so cool. And I took off my Birkenstock sandal just now to show you these. But the inside is extra fuzzy. Yeah, they're just like super cute. And they do look good.
Of course you have them on with Birkenstock.
So this is I'm going to like fall over trying to show you. But that's my great shot of all of my fashion choices.
Well, I was confused for a second because you put your leg up and like the hole in your knee. That's not even like a rip. That's like half of the pant.
Can escape through that hole. Like
yeah, or things can crawl in. Like you gotta be careful. Wow. That's like massive. So yeah, I was very confused for a second. I thought you were wearing really long shorts, and I was like, "Oh, Ashley, what happened here?" I was like about to be judgy about your fashion sense. Then I was like, "Oh, she's a
jetty photo to include for visual watchers only, like maybe so that you can see exactly what this aesthetic is." But it's very much like I'm a freezing Japanese girl.
It's special. Like I'll give you that. I would love for you to take a a full body shot, like in the mirror or something that we can post so everybody can really truly get the gist of Ashley in her element.
But the fuzzy socks are daily wear. I will also say that on my third date with my boyfriend, he brought me 3 pairs of fuzzy socks, and he did not know how I felt about fuzzy socks, and that just was a really serendipitous moment. And
How did I not know this?
That I loved him because I was like, he understands comfort.
As long as he's not okay with you sleeping in them, because that's where it goes awry.
Yeah, he doesn't like that either. You're very compatible in that feeling.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. That's really precious. That was like very precious.
The sweetest human of all time. And
he is a very, very sweet human.
And the fuzzy socks just really icing on the cake there.
No doubt.
Icing on the cake, speaking of, is a terrible cliche.
Horrible cliche. Yes. Okay. So let's delve into the cliche thing because I feel like we're going to spend a lot of time on this. First, is
time out. We didn't officially toast, and you've already taken off your socks.
Listen, this is where my boundaries are like really. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. You ready? Here's what I'm going to do.
Okay. I approve. I approve of this message.
I'm going to hold my sock up in front of the camera so that we can toast to fuzzy socks.
I'm trying to get my leg up. Maybe I need to do more yoga. Oh, here we go.
Okay. And here's to friendships and fuzzy socks.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me my boundaries on that. Like if I put those back on, I'm going to pass out.
Listen, the girl who loves boundaries doesn't respect someone else's. There's a big problem.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And on that note, okay, I definitely do. I'm like excited to deep dive into cliches because as a writer, I'm so conscious of cliches in writing, and yet I find myself using them all the time. And I cringe. Like I'll cringe inwardly when I hear myself use something, knowing that I feel like it's lazy speech. And that's the thing. Like aside from coming across as lazy, whether that's the intention or not, a lot of cliches are not used correctly. And even when they are, a lot of them are sort of nonsensical, quite frankly.
There's not really any that make a lot of sense. And comedians highlight that all the time. Like, all the time.
So, okay. You know this about me. Maybe people listening don't. But one of my aversions, very colossal aversions, is stand-up comedy. And this sounds so nuts coming from somebody who was on a sitcom for a long time. I understand how crazy this sounds. That's fine. Go with it. I'm really I have an aversion to actually going and seeing stand-up comedy. I've done it in support of dear friends, but it makes me highly uncomfortable. And it's not what most people would think. It's not that I'm concerned I'm going to be made fun of. Like, I don't give a shit about being made fun of. I make fun of myself all the time. Self-deprecation is a beautiful thing. It's a gift. But going to stand-up comedy for me is watching somebody for however long the set is being on perpetually. And I have such a hard time with that because it doesn't feel authentic to me. And yet, again, I've made a career out of telling jokes. So there's a weird thing happening there that I probably need to talk to my therapist about. But I'm just saying, like, cliches to me are, I wouldn't know that comedians are making fun of cliches because I have such an aversion to stand-up comedy that I can't, that's where I draw the line.
I think that's okay, but I do want to talk about it later. But I think before we even get into all of this, I want to really get clear about what is it that makes a cliche stick? Because I think that there's a lot of history to some of these, right? There's a lot of history.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I think I think the majority of cliches come from past experiences. And actually, I think in general, I think they need an overall update. Like, here we are talking about all of these crazy words that we've inducted, we'll say, into like the Merriam-Webster dictionary, right? But cliches have gotten zero update. So, for example, like, rather than when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, like, why is it not when life gives you lemons, make a lemon drop martini? That's so much more interesting. Or like, avoid it like the plague. The last major plague that the United States saw was in Los Angeles in like 1925. Okay. And legit. And quick rabbit hole. In 2021, there were nearly 90,000 people in the United States that were over the age of 100. So actually, there is more people who probably remember that plague living in the United States right now than we even realize. It's insane. It's like 0.027%. I did not just math that, by the way. I did do the research, clearly wrote it down because I mathing is not my niche. But that's like 0.027% of the population. And that's almost doubled in the last 20 years. Like, it's supposed to quadruple in the next 30 years, people over the age of 100. And I think a lot of that has to do, for example, with AI and things of that nature. You know, just advances in technology mean advances in medicine, right? But like, so that essentially means that you and me are going to be like blue hairs having Taco Tuesday saying, remember the time we did that podcast? But like, why is avoid it like the plague not changing to avoid it like COVID?
Honestly, I think you're really onto something that I was also following that trail as well. It's finding a way to modernize old adages or cliches that maybe don't make sense now because they just don't make sense, but it means more when you're putting a personal touch on the thing that you're referencing. For example, when I would talk about my past marriage and how it was so hard to navigate his emotions, I would say it's worse than walking on eggshells. It's like walking on a wet tightrope of toilet paper. So that to me was like more tender and more sensitive at that moment. Or I think just overall, like, it's just cliches become like a crutch that we use when we don't want to have to actually use our brains to have conversation. And it's easier to really just not add any nuance. It's a fallback for everyone, but especially as a writer or a speaker, you're more keenly aware of the fact that these things exist and we don't want to use them. I read a book, I read it maybe once every couple of years, by author Leah Lowndes. It's called How to Talk to Anyone. And she has a whole thing in there about how you cannot use cliches and you have to update them if you want to seem like what she calls a big dog or a big player. You don't want to go into a room full of executives trying to work your way up the corporate ladder and say, it's raining cats and dogs out there. Like, that doesn't make you look smarter.
But what's interesting to me is I would almost think it's the opposite, because there's a connection when you know for a fact, like cliches are there because they're widespread, right? So there's an automatic connection made. You know that someone's going to understand, even if the cliche is nonsensical, even if it really is the dumbest thing people have ever heard, they still know what it means because it's been in our vocab repertoire for so long.
Well,
so
I think what you're describing is a social safe zone.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it allows us to communicate without risk of a misunderstanding. For example, sometimes it just lacks authenticity. It just doesn't come off as like, I'm an original thinker.
I 100% agree. And coming from the place of, you know, we're both creatives in a very big way and in varying arenas too. You know, we both write, we both, you know, there's the singing, there's the all of it. There's, you know, art and all of the things. Being a creative, the last thing I want to be thought of is unoriginal. That's like the most toxic word, unoriginal. Yeah, so I think you're right. It is a social safe zone. That's very interesting. But it is also, again, it is also kind of, when you consider that, and this is kind of going super left, but when COVID occurred, it leveled the playing field for everyone because everyone was had this commonality, had this same situation. We were all fearing similar things. We were all trying to figure it out together.
We were all buying toilet paper. Like,
we were all toilet paper. Or hoarding it, one of the two. It just, depending on who you are. But and so I think in a way, cliches end up being this fallback where we do just kind of like find common ground because at the end of the day, we are all looking for that common ground. And so it's a risk to use a different cliche. It's a risk. You have to actually like think of something that you think that the person that you're speaking to is going to understand and feel something about, and like certain things are more widespread. Say it. Go ahead.
I think that's the part of me that's like, that's the job of being a good friend or a good acquaintance, even.
Or a good writer.
Or a good date. Observing and then translating the observation into an analogy, a metaphor, a cliche that you've updated to fit that person in a way that makes you memorable and makes you stand out. Like, I can't think of anything right now, of course, but let's say chocolate milk is something special to you and there's a reason that it would work to put it into a conversation using a callback to chocolate milk with a funny cliche.
Right.
Would make you really remember, like you would remember that person and that person would be shocked that you knew that fact about them and that you took that away with you.
Or like say somebody is a really huge fan of Cosmopolitans. Clearly we're not talking about me because I don't do drinks like that. But say it's Cosmopolitans. Like instead of saying don't cry over spilt milk, and who gives a shit if I spill milk? I'm lactose intolerant, just saying. But like, why not don't cry over Cosmopolitans?
Yeah.
It's something similar but different, but it adds its own little twist for somebody that makes it
personality into it. Like, be a human being. Don't just say things you hear other people saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Something.
Exactly. But like, even if it's something that is a more common phrase, but updates something, like, more bang for your buck. Okay, like more bang for your Bitcoin might be like a slightly more modern. I think some of it is about it because I love the personal angle, but I also think some of it is just about modernizing things. Like we're modernizing technology at rates of speed that are mind-boggling, but we're using cliches that we've used. Like, okay, for example, selling like hotcakes. I actually had to go research what hotcakes were. So I was like, what the fuck is that? What actually is hotcakes, right? See, that's the thing. It's actually not a pancake. That's what I would have thought too. It's not. So I didn't know what hotcakes were. Apparently, they're cornmeal and cooked pork lard. So one, ew. Two, that's something that is so not it's just not contemporary in any way, shape, or form. And apparently people sold the shit out of them at some point in time because otherwise the cliche wouldn't make any sense, right? So whatever, maybe they're highly tasty. I don't know. But like, in maybe the like 90s or 2000s or whenever, do you remember the Tickle Me Elmo craze?
Mm-hmm.
Like selling like Tickle Me Elmo. That would have made sense, right? Or like selling like Taylor Swift albums. Selling like ADHD meds. I don't know. Just like there are things that would up the ante on this, right? And like because nobody actually knows what hotcakes are.
Jenna.
Yes.
You're doing what comedians in stand-up do. You're subverting
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I hate stand-up.
You're making an observational humor commentary that takes a cliche, flips it on its head, and makes it relatable in a new and humorous way. Everything happens for a reason can turn into everything happens for a dumb reason. Like, that's what you're saying.
Listen, okay, I am gonna like side quest on this. Everything happens for a reason. I think is probably the most damaging cliche of all time.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I feel that phrase is one of the most useless platitudes it is designed to fill the space when you have nothing else to say to somebody who is suffering.
Yes.
Who is going through a challenge that they actually are looking for your support and love in, and everything happens for a reason, it comes across as so dismissive. This is the part of cliche that I am most, I think, hardcore frustrated about. I was talking to my partner about it this morning. And she said that she's like, when someone says that particular phrase to her, that everything happens for a reason, that she's like, I start immediately throwing like flying fucks around inside my head. And I was like picturing this Ally McBeal moment of like flying paper fucks like around in her head. But I loved that because I was like, yes, that's exactly right. Because there's something so disingenuous about it. There's something so like, all right. So I gave that a Google, right? The everything happens for a reason, because I was, sometimes you get so frustrated about things that you can't even put a conscious, executed stream of thoughts.
Would you say those are big fucking feelings?
I would say those are big fucking feelings. Right. Yes, and apparently so would Google, because Google said, and I love this so much, and like I don't actually know the original source of this, but this is what I found, is that the trouble with cliches is that they're the hallmark cards of reactions.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what they are. You know, they really are. They're the hallmark cards of reactions. They're like the stock answer.
Yeah. Well, and if you haven't yet, listen to our toxic positivity episode, because I think this can kind of like go right hand in hand with that. It's like, we're dismissing your feelings. We're saying, we're going to put a pretty little bow on it. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You'll find it. You'll figure it out. Don't worry. You'll be fine. Like it's all the same.
Yeah. Or the best is yet to come. That's another one. Like, yeah. I get that. And I appreciate that when those phrases are spoken aloud, it is typically by friends or family who have they're very well intentioned. And that's the thing. So I don't want to invalidate the intentions of the people who are saying these things, right? The problem is that when people are struggling, there are certain trigger words and phrases, and those, the best is yet to come and everything happens for a reason. Those are two cliches that are very triggering to me. Because again, I go back to, they sound inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And they also don't really mean anything. We can't see the future. We don't have a little magic 8-ball. Like, there's a reason the magic 8-ball doesn't say everything happens for a reason on one of its little triangles. Like, that's not in there purposely. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. So, but it's also okay for us to feel in that moment that things are a shit show. It's okay. Like, that's all right. You know, is it okay that they're a shit show? No, that's a bummer. But like, struggling friends don't want to hear, you know, your dog died and everything happens for a reason. You know what? That doesn't work for me, because I fucking loved my dog and still do to this day. And like, that's not what I want to hear when I am grieving. So there are just like certain things that we can say, I think, to people that are, and maybe we want to talk about this. Like, there are certain things that we can say to people, to friends, to family who are dealing with challenges, that are going to be more empathetic. And then everything happens for a reason. Like, let's set the cliches aside for a second and let's go, hey, I hear that this is a really hard time for you. What can I do to help you? Or in our toxic positivity episode, I think I mentioned that when my partner and I are communicating, a lot of times, like when one of us is upset about something, she'll say, or I'll say to her, like, are you looking to vent or do you want a hug? And there's something very special about being present for somebody. I've talked about this before too, and I'll keep talking about it because it meant the world to me and continues to mean the world to me, which is that you offered to, quote unquote, hold my emotional bucket when I was upset. And you said, I'm your friend. Let me take some of this off of you. Like, go ahead and vent. I can take it. I'll hold some of it for you. I'll carry your bucket. And we do that for our children too. That's a really beautiful thing. So like, let's forego the cliches. Let's flush them down the toilet like a goldfish. Let's do whatever we need to do, throw them in the ocean and let them sink to the bottom of the sea. Let's instead replace that with some empathetic phrasing that is a little bit more universally thoughtful.
We all need to break free from the kind of knee-jerk, lazy response of a cliche.
Yes.
I'm wondering, I kind of thought about this a little bit, but I'm definitely curious on your thoughts of just like, how do we break free from using cliches? I think a lot of it is what we've already been talking about, but really not just rewriting the classics, but really considering that context is key and that sometimes those cliches will work in the right context.
Yeah.
If you're telling a lighthearted story or something that allows you to use them ironically, then sure. But the key really is knowing when can a cliche enhance and not dilute your intention, your message, what you're trying to get across.
Yeah, I think I think there's always room for like a snarky entry for cliches. Like if it's tongue in cheek, that automatically sort of gives it a pass, I think. I'm this coming from probably one of the snarkiest people so clearly I'm pro snark. But I do think you're right, there are situations where cliches are kind of perfect and appropriate, or it's cultural in some ways too. For example, and I mentioned this earlier about Southernisms, like, the most obvious one being bless your heart. Like that's, first of all, there's no way that I can say an East Coast girl can say bless your heart to anyone without it coming across as snarky. So let me preface it with that. But like there are some really hilarious, and I don't care who says them. I don't care if it's a server at a restaurant, a friend, great grandma, Auntie Luann. I don't care who says it. Like there are certain Southern phrases that are cliches, but they are so fucking funny to me that I can't take them, but I also can't take them seriously. Like, cause they're such a cultural, they're so ingrained in the culture of the South. So for example, like there's one that's like as useful as tits on a bowl. I can promise you that
I've never heard that.
Okay. Well, I can promise you that I did not hear that growing up in Connecticut. Okay. And that was not like an East Coast thing. But yeah, as useful as tits on a bowl. Another one. I read this article the other day. It said it's hotter. First of all, it says hotter apostrophe N. I can't. My little like grammar loving heart has a serious problem with that. That's fine. It's hotter than a blister. So I'm going to say hotter than because I cannot do justice to the Southernism that is this sentence. It's hotter than a blister bug in a pepper patch. What the fuck does that even mean? I don't know. I have no idea. Hotter than a blister bug in a pepper patch. But this is like a common...
Oh my God. You're bringing back a memory for me that I have forgotten about that is very funny to me.
Okay, so this is a good thing, right? Like this is not...
If not trauma, it's cliche. Because I'm not trying to do that to you. I'm so sorry. No, but I was at a Ponderosa restaurant. Have you ever heard of those?
I just took a sip of water and I nearly spit it at my screen. Okay. Yes, I am familiar with Ponderosa restaurant.
They have like the buffet and stuff.
Also, that I should mention that's my other aversion. So like stand-up comedy, but buffet.
I don't love a buffet.
I can't. I very rarely can handle a buffet. Okay, anyway.
No, not a fan. Maybe at like some really swanky place, but
Yeah, or like a cruise. If you're on a cruise, like the buffets are gorgeous. They're amazing. And like, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's perhaps another episode of like
definitely another episode.
Is our aversions, because I'm sure we both have plenty. Okay, no, but I want to hear your story. Sorry.
Okay, so I was little. I was like 10 years old, and I went back to the bathroom. They had just cleaned the floors back there. They mopped them, and this man was coming out of the bathroom, and I was with my cousin, and he said, "Be careful, girls. It's slicker than snot back here." And I died. I died because I was like, it is kind of slick, and it might feel like this if I were walking on snot. But that's not a cliche. He made that up, right?
Okay. Yes. Well, I don't know. Maybe, or maybe, I don't know. Everyone who's listening, like, let us know. Have you heard of this before? Is this a thing?
Yeah.
So my oldest daughter, Gray, when she was probably, oh God, she was so young. She was like 2.5 maybe. And her vocabulary was already really extensive, and she spoke really well. And you knowing her as well as you do, I know this is not surprising to you at all, but her foot fell asleep. And she said, "Mommy, I'm walking on sparkles."
Oh.
And I loved that so much. And there's something so beautiful about this. I'm walking on sparkles. And that's the kind of thing where it sounds like a cliche.
Yeah.
But it was made up in the mind of a 2-year-old.
Better than pins and needles, that's for sure.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cliche, talk about cliche, walking on pins and needles, like that's a cliche, right? But like walking on sparkles, I'm like, yes, exactly. Yes, and like talk about a 2-year-old figuring out early that you can put a personal, not that she did it intentionally, but putting a personal reference, creating something, taking a cliche and like turning it into something new and interesting and memorable. And that's what it was. It's so memorable to me. Yeah. And of course, again, she didn't mean to do it. Like, she was freaking 2, but like, that's a cool way of phrasing it.
But that's what we need people to do. Yes. Think about how they're actually feeling and put their actual words to it, and not just use what is already existing, because we get more out of walking on sparkles today than we do pins and needles. Like, we don't have to default to what everyone else says and do what everyone else does. We can be creative.
But we're also making that so much easier for people, aren't we? Because with things like ChatGPT, you can, it's spitting things out to you so that you don't necessarily. And the part of writing, like, we'll do an episode on AI at some point, but we have to. I am a very big fan of AI, so let me at least just say that, and I'm sure that you'll hear me say this multiple times over the course of the next however many podcasts, but I believe in AI because I think it can make your work smarter, not harder. And that also is a cliche. I'm gonna let that one go for a second and set it aside, because there's not a better way to explain it than that. Yeah. But the problem with AI, and there are many benefits and many disadvantages, I think, is that it's really like replacing, for some people who are, they're maybe, I don't want to say abusing it, I don't know that that's fair, but like, as a writer, I'm not going to go let AI write an article for me. I don't want it to think for me. I don't want it to become my opinion or my thought process, or remove the level of creativity that I want to infuse in my work, right? So the problem becomes it is making it a lot easier for people who are like, oh, but it's so easy. It's like a microwave. And maybe AI is like equivalent to a microwave, and to a certain extent. This is a very bizarre analogy here.
Do it.
But like when microwave, there are certain things that, like, microwaves made things so quick and easy. I still use cooking as my therapy. The microwave has very few and specific efforts that it services, okay, in my life. It does very specific things. If I need to melt butter really fast for a recipe I'm making, I might throw it in the microwave. I'm going to cover it because it fucking splatters everywhere and ruins everything in the microwave, and I have to clean it 5 times before it's clean. So that's my little side rant for this episode. But like the microwave has certain uses. If my coffee gets cold and I'm in the middle of a project and I need to finish it and I need that coffee and I don't have time to go make another pot, I'm going to heat it up in the microwave. But the microwave is not intended to be a replacement for cooking.
No, you can't make a 4-course meal in a microwave.
Correct. In that same vein, AI is not intended to replace creativity and writing process, right? So, but I do think from a cliche standpoint, like it's very easy now for people to just kind of use it like the proverbial microwave of technology. AI is the microwave of technology. You heard it here first. And go drop things in there and be like, how do I say this? And inevitably, those certain things are going to end up being cliches because that's what exists out there to pull from. Those are the things that have long existed. And so, of course, AI is going to grab those and deliver them like a neatly wrapped package.
Yeah, it's your creative wit in a box. But you can't do a lot more with it. Although I also am a very big fan of AI. And I will always say that I love AI. And I tell my children to be nice to Alexa because if it takes over the world someday, I'm an ally.
Oh my God. I'm so feeling you right now in such a big way. Yeah, except when she interferes with my conversations with my children and I'm like trying to tell them something and it's like a very tense moment and she says, "I'm sorry, I don't understand the request." And I'm like, "That's because I wasn't tagging you, bitch." Oh my God, we are definitely doing an episode on AI. This is happening. We're planning it now because this is all going to be If you're listening to this episode and you listen to a future episode on AI and you hear some of the same kind of stuff, I'm just saying this is like your little preview. It's like a little trailer for the
get in on the conversation. Talk about down there and like let's see them so that we can
send us questions. The market is so saturated. And this is not meant to turn into an episode about AI, but like the market is so saturated with stuff about AI right now. And that I've like literally picked up I'm so into this right now that I've picked up a pen and I'm using it as a prop. This is what's happening.
It's violent. It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah, the market is so saturated with AI and information about AI. And I mean, it's growing exponentially in ways that are so profound and truly mind-blowing. Honestly, it's like it's as big as aliens invading the planet. Like it truly is.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that Alexa is going to be the ruler of my household anytime soon, but we are in for a lot of interesting stuff in the next 5 to 10 years, and maybe 10 is being generous. I don't know. Okay, wait, I want to go back to Southern cliches because I
got from Southern cliches.
This is what we should call this show Tangent instead of big fucking feelings. We should just call it Tangent. So Southern cliches. I know I like mentioned the tits on a bowl. I mentioned hotter than a blister bug, that whole thing. There's another one that I heard, and this I just want an explanation, and I think I'm getting closer to an explanation. But if you feel like helping me, this is what happens when you're an East Coast girl who lives on the West Coast for 17 years and then moves to the South. I have a lot of confusion about things. And you know what? People are probably confused by me too. And I'm fine with that. But you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. What? So for me growing up, I heard, not from my parents. My parents did not swear around us at all. They would never have said this. But I heard you can't turn shit into shinola.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that either, to be fair. And I looked that up because I was curious because it's such a slang expression, right? And I didn't know where it came from, but it's always fascinating to me to figure out, like, to find out where cliches come from. That particular cliche about shit and shinola, they're actually both substances. They're both like dark brown. This is getting really dirty, but they're like dark brown, smeary substances. She says somewhat regretfully on a podcast. But shinola was a brand of shoe polish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the company called Shinola it originated in Rochester, New York in like the late 1800s. And it produced shoe polish until like 1960. It was around for like 100 years, almost a century.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so like the company's founder came up with that so that he was like, oh yeah, consumers it's such high quality shoe polish that customers can tell shit from shinola.
I see it. That makes
sense. So like, I guess, it's the whole point of the expression is that it means somebody's like, if you can't tell shit from shinola, like you're a dumbass, basically. It's, it's like ignorance 101. So that's what I take it to mean. And I'm assuming that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear is the southern version of that. I don't know. But it sure is funny. And if somebody says that in front of me, rest assured, I'm going to be laughing my ass off for a little while.
I think this is really taking a twist that I wasn't expecting.
You didn't want to talk about shit and shoe polish?
I didn't know that there was a correlation. So.
Okay, well, to be fair, neither did I. But this is what research does. Research can fuck you up sometimes.
It sure does. So grateful for this lesson in the difference between shit and shoe polish. So, thank you for that.
You should be. You're welcome.